Have you ever noticed this? The person you defended eventually turned on you. The person you helped through a hard season later acted cold, dismissive, even hostile. The person you gave time, energy, patience, understanding to ended up betraying you like your loyalty meant nothing. And if that's happened to you, you know how confusing it feels. Because betrayal from an enemy is one thing, but betrayal from someone you helped, that hits differently, because it makes you question everything. Was I too available? Too generous? Too blind? Too loyal? Did they ever care at all? And before we go deeper, I want to ask you something early for the comments. Have you ever helped someone in a real way, emotionally, financially, practically, or spiritually, only to watch them become distant, resentful, or disloyal later? What was the first sign that the energy had changed? Put that in the comments, because a lot of people have lived this exact pattern and thought it was just them. But it's not just you, and the reason is darker than most people think. People do not always betray the ones who harmed them. Sometimes they betray the ones who saw them struggling, stood beside them, and witnessed a version of them they desperately wanted to outgrow. That's the twist. Sometimes the helper becomes the target, because the helper became a mirror, and through a Jungian lens, that mirror can awaken shame, dependency, inferiority, and shadow material the other person doesn't know how to integrate. So let's talk about why the people you help often end up betraying you. Because once you understand the real mechanism, a lot of painful history starts making sense. 1. Your help can make people feel smaller before it makes them feel grateful. Here's the first truth nobody likes to admit. Help is not always received as love. Sometimes it is received as exposure. That sounds unfair, but it's real. Because when someone is in pain, lost, broken, unstable, or desperate, your help may genuinely save them for a while, but it also creates a silent emotional fact they now have to live with. At one point, I needed you. And for secure people, that can deepen respect. For insecure people, it can create shame, because being helped doesn't just relieve suffering. It can also highlight weakness. It can remind someone that you saw them at their lowest, saw them confused, saw them needy, saw them dependent, saw them unable to carry themselves, and if they haven't made peace with that version of themselves, your existence becomes complicated. Because now you are not just the person who helped them. You are the witness. The witness to a self they are trying very hard to forget. That's why help can produce something strange in certain people. Not gratitude, pressure. The pressure of having been seen in a powerless state. And if someone's ego cannot metabolize that honestly, they don't come closer. They start pulling away, or hardening, or minimizing what you did, or acting like it was never that serious. Because gratitude requires humility, and humility is very difficult for people who are secretly ashamed of ever needing anyone. So if someone changed after you helped them, don't rush to the simple conclusion that they were always evil. Sometimes something more psychologically complicated happened. Your help touched their wound, but it also touched their pride. And pride that has not been examined almost always defends itself badly. 2. The deeper wound. You became linked to their weaker self. This is where the real betrayal often begins. The person you helped unconsciously starts associating you with the version of themselves they're trying to leave behind, not because you forced that association, because memory does it for them. When they look at you, they don't only see your kindness, they see the season when they were unraveling. They see the time they needed guidance, needed money, needed emotional holding, needed rescue, needed someone more stable than they were. And again, secure people can look at that history and feel respect. But insecure people often feel something much harsher, humiliation, even if you never humiliated them. That's important. You may have been gentle, discreet, loyal, protective, and still, they may feel exposed by the fact that you know what they were like when they had no mask left. This is where Jung's idea of the persona becomes useful. The persona is the social mask, the self we present to function, be admired, be accepted, look strong, look composed. Now imagine what happens when someone is trying to rebuild that mask after a hard season. They want to feel powerful again, composed again, independent again, in control again. But then there's you, the person who remembers the unmasked version, the person who saw the panic, the confusion, the collapse, the dependence, the tears they'd now rather deny. And suddenly, your presence creates tension, not because you're doing anything wrong, but because you are evidence. Evidence that they were once not who they're now trying to appear to be. And that can make certain people resent the very person who cared for them. Not because your care was false, because your care became psychologically entangled with their shame. That is one of the most painful truths about betrayal. Sometimes people don't stab the person who hurt them, they stab the person who knew them too honestly. 3. Some people would rather destroy the witness than integrate the shame. This is the twist that changes everything. People often think betrayal happens because someone is selfish. And yes, sometimes that's true, but often betrayal is more primitive than that. More defensive. More unconscious. Some people would rather damage the relationship than remain close to the person who reminds them of a vulnerable version of themselves. In other words, they do not know how to integrate the shame. So they try to eliminate the witness. That's brutal, but it explains so much. Why they become colder once they recover. Why they stop acknowledging what you did. Why they suddenly rewrite the story. Why they act like your support was controlling, unnecessary, exaggerated or inconvenient. Why they begin to distance themselves from the one person who actually stayed. Because to stay close to you would require something many people are not trained for. Honest gratitude without ego collapse. It would require them to say, yes, I was weak then. Yes, you helped me. Yes, I needed it. Yes, part of me feels exposed by that. Yes, I am ashamed of how low I was. Most people don't have that level of self-confrontation. So instead, the psyche takes the easier road. It turns discomfort outward. That's shadow behavior. Jungian shadow isn't just anger or darkness in the cartoon sense. It includes all the disowned material people don't want to recognize in themselves. Weakness, envy, dependence, humiliation, need, even gratitude if gratitude threatens pride. So what happens? That unresolved shame gets projected, and now somehow you become the problem. Not because you harmed them, because you became associated with the part of them they hate facing. That's why some betrayal feels irrational, because on the surface it is irrational, but underneath it's psychological self-protection, broken self-protection, cowardly self-protection, but self-protection all the same. 4. They start rewriting the story to escape emotional debt. Once shame enters the picture, people often do something predictable. They rewrite history. This is one of the clearest signs. The person you helped starts subtly editing the story. Suddenly your support wasn't that important. Your sacrifice gets downplayed. Your loyalty becomes just what anyone would do. The crisis wasn't that bad. They would have figured it out anyway. You're framed as too involved, too invested, too much. Why do people do this? Because emotional debt is heavy. And I'm not talking about debt in the manipulative sense, where you help someone just to own them. I'm talking about the natural emotional weight that comes with knowing someone really stood beside you when you were falling apart. That kind of memory asks something of a person, not worship, not lifelong obedience, but honesty, respect, proportion, a clean acknowledgement of reality, and some people cannot tolerate that weight. So they try to lighten it by rewriting the story. If they reduce what you did, they reduce what they owe emotionally. If they make your help look smaller, they can feel less dependent, less seen, less humbled by it. This is why some people become dismissive right after you supported them deeply. They're not always forgetting. Sometimes they're escaping the emotional truth of what happened between you. Because if they admitted it fully, they would have to admit how much they needed you, and that may be exactly what their pride cannot bear. So they reframe, minimize, distort, edit, and if necessary, they start painting you as the one who expected too much. That is one of the ugliest forms of betrayal, when someone uses distortion to escape gratitude. 5. Help can turn into envy once they start comparing who you were to who they were. Now we move into something even more uncomfortable. Sometimes the person you helped doesn't just feel shame, they feel envy. Not envy of your money, or your looks, or your status. Envy of your stability. Envy of the fact that when they were falling apart, you were the one holding shape. You were the one with composure, perspective, discipline, clarity, strength, restraint. And once they recover enough to look back, that difference can sting. Because now they're not just remembering that you helped them, they're comparing who you were in that season to who they were. And comparison is where jealousy enters quietly. They start feeling small around the version of you that stayed grounded while they were unraveling. So what do jealous people do when they feel smaller than the person who helped them? Often the same thing insecure people always do. They minimize, compete, distance, study you without warmth, undercut your image in subtle ways, act unimpressed by the very qualities that once saved them. Why? Because your strength became part of the story of their weakness, and that is hard for the ego to live beside. So they begin to psychologically level the field. If they can't erase the fact that you helped them, they can at least stop admiring the version of you who could. That's why some people become colder as they become better. Not because healing made them cruel, because recovery gave their ego enough strength to defend itself badly. And instead of turning that energy into gratitude and growth, they turn it into comparison and resentment. 6. They betray you to prove they are no longer under you. This next part is brutal, but it explains so much. Some people betray you not only out of resentment, but out of a desperate need to feel independent from you. Think about it. If they still treat you with visible respect, if they still acknowledge what you did, if they still hold you in high regard, part of them may secretly feel below you. Not because you put them there, because they put themselves there through comparison. So betrayal becomes a twisted act of psychological separation. A way of saying, I don't need you. You don't have power over me. You're not above me. I can hurt you too. I can reject you before you become the one who defines me. This is why betrayal often comes right after recovery, success, or confidence returns. Because now they have enough strength to rebel against the emotional position they once occupied around you. And sadly, for immature people, the easiest way to feel equal again is not through growth, it's through desecration. They talk behind your back, they switch sides, they become disloyal, they disrespect the bond. They align with people who never showed up for them the way you did. They behave as if hurting you somehow resets the balance, and deep down, that's often exactly what they're trying to do. Reset the balance, not through maturity, through damage. Because betrayal is one of the fastest ways insecure people try to escape the feeling of inferiority. If they can wound the one who once helped them, then maybe they are no longer the weaker one in the story. That's how distorted the psyche can become when shame and pride are left unconscious. 7. The darkest twist. Your help awakened the part of them that knows they still haven't saved themselves. Here is the deepest twist of all. Sometimes people betray you because your help did not only rescue them, it confronted them. It confronted the fact that they still had not become the person they needed to become for themselves. And your presence keeps that truth alive. Because no matter how much time passes, some part of them knows you showed up. They didn't know how to show up for themselves. You stayed steady. They were collapsing. You saw clearly. They were drowning in avoidance. And unless they do the real inner work, your existence keeps pressing on that wound. Not because you're punishing them, because reality does. This is where Jung's shadow becomes essential again. What people reject in themselves does not vanish. It returns through projection, conflict, distortion, and relationship pain. So if someone never truly integrates the part of themselves that felt helpless, dependent, ashamed, or inferior, they may spend years trying to outrun it, and the helper becomes a problem. Because the helper still symbolizes the season they never fully digested. That is why some people don't merely distance from the ones who helped them, they betray them. Because betrayal is the most dramatic way to sever contact with a mirror they don't want. It is ugly, immature, unjust, but psychologically it makes a twisted kind of sense. They are not only betraying you, they are trying to escape the truth that you bring back into consciousness. So what do you do with all this? First, stop assuming betrayal means your help was wasted. That's one of the hardest lessons. Just because someone betrayed you doesn't mean your kindness was foolish. It doesn't mean your care was fake. It doesn't mean what you gave had no value. Sometimes people betray precisely because what you gave had value. They were not mature enough to carry with dignity. Second, stop romanticizing helplessness in others. Not everyone who suffers becomes deep. Not everyone who receives love becomes loyal. Not everyone who is helped becomes humble. Pain does not automatically make people honest. Sometimes it just makes them more defended. Third, help with open eyes. Help if it is true to your nature. Help because it aligns with your values. But do not help under the fantasy that sacrifice automatically creates loyalty. It doesn't. Sometimes it creates attachment, sometimes gratitude, sometimes healing, and sometimes it creates shame in people who cannot bear being seen in need. And finally, if you have already lived this, please hear this clearly. Their betrayal is not proof that you were wrong to care. It is often proof that they were too divided to hold what your care revealed. That is not your shame to carry. You are not responsible for how someone metabolizes being loved in a season when they could not love themselves. And before you go, I want to ask you one more thing for the comments. What was the moment you realized someone you had genuinely helped was no longer just distant, but had started resenting, rewriting, or betraying the very bond that once held them up? If this hit home, comment, "I was the witness they couldn't bear," because a lot of people have experienced this exact wound and thought they were the only one. They're not.